Now back to our interview with Aurora Griffin. Aurora Griffin, you give practical points about staying Catholic, on university campuses. One of the things you say is to find other Catholics if they are there. Tell us about that.
Yes, so what I tell college students about this, or high school students who are thinking about going to college, is there is going to be a moment in the future in which your parents have just dropped you off at school, you're alone, you're in your dorm room, and you're trying to decide, I'm making the first decision for myself as an adult. I'm independent. What am I going to do? And I say, remember that moment and go find the Catholics, which is exactly what I did. My mom dropped me off. She said goodbye. We were both sad. And then I went straight to St. Paul's, and I found out, when are the masses? When do the students get together? Who can I talk to? And I was very worried, actually, that there weren't any Catholics. I talk about this in the book, that I thought that there was this really outdated website for the Harvard Catholic community at the time, and I was worried there were no Catholics, and that was just absolutely not true. There were tons of Catholics there, and there are at most places if you just know to go look for them.
And obviously, too, you need a strong daily prayer life. You write quite a bit about that in the book. And I liked what you said about spiritual reading and spiritual writing. Tell us about that.
Sure, these two practices go hand in hand. So separate from Lectio Divina or attending Mass, reflecting on the Word of God, we have this category of spiritual reading, which is reading things that are related to the faith, but not necessarily revelation, just to nurture your mind and to take a step forward from where you're at. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. It has to be what you're interested in and would actually read. And then I found that my spiritual reading went to a whole different level once I started writing about my reflections to them. Nothing complicated, nothing time-consuming, just a point here or there so that I can come back and look back over the last couple months, the last year if I want to, and see where God has been leading me in my reading.
And you also made a great point about chastity and how that can be a danger to the faith, depending on who you're dating and their views of chastity. Tell us about that.
Yes, so what I mentioned in the book is that I think that the number one reason why I saw people who came into Harvard with solid faiths then walk away from their faith was because they started dating somebody who didn't share the faith with them. And it could be somebody whom they admired for their virtue, who had common goals, who seemed to be, totally right, except didn't have the faith. And it's a hard situation. These are tough calls to make, but what I say in the book is that and I agree with now, is that it's so important to make sure that you're on the same page with the person you're dating in terms of chastity. So, the faith is, for me, it's a non-negotiable. For other people, I think it's more prudent to date someone of the Catholic faith. But the non-negotiable thing is chastity, because if you have one view of it from the Catholic Church, meaning that sexuality, that sexual expression is reserved for marriage, if your partner doesn't agree with that, you're going to have a heck of a time actually living it out.
And then once you fall into it, continue in that sin, it pulls you out of Mass and out of daily prayer and things, because you feel that tension, right? And people,
I think so.
Yeah. I thought that was a great point.
And I think people feel scared then, or guilty. Like, if they aren't being chaste, then they're in Mass and they're like, oh, people know, or I don't belong here, which is not true. The Catholic Church has high standards, but one thing we've been really reflecting on under Pope Francis's guidance is how much mercy is there from the Church in addition to those high standards.
Right. I was impressed in the book about how active you are in clubs and activities, but you write about making time for that Sunday rest, not just the academics alone, but talk about the importance of Sunday rest, even for a college student.
Well, I think it's so easy to get drawn into this rhythm where we're working all the time, 24 hours a day. And then if you take a break, it's just stealing away from things you should really be doing. And there's no time that's really set apart where you know that you can rest. The thing about making yourself take Sunday off, it takes more discipline. You have to plan it out. You have to make sure that you do your laundry or clean your room or get your assignments done on Saturday. And that's when a lot of people are hanging out. So it takes a deliberate effort. But then if there's nothing better, I think, than waking up on a Sunday morning and knowing that you just have the day to reset, to spend time with God, to worship, to be with your friends. It really adds a whole different rhythm to the week and a different, it enables you, I think, to do more. I attribute a lot of my being able to be in all of these different clubs and be pushing as hard as I was in my academics to the fact that I knew I was going to have time off every week.
And we have about a minute left. You went to daily Mass through Harvard and being a Rhodes Scholar. How was that possible?
I did. It's only half an hour a day.
That's unthinkable for most students.
We spend half an hour doing all kinds of things. Well, I would say it's one of those things that it gives so much more than it takes from you. You know, it does take an effort. You do have to commit to it and move other things around it. But when you do, your time multiplies. You meet great people. I really can't imagine my experience in college and grad school without Mass. It was my anchor.
Yeah. Well, you've written a marvelous book, and you've just a great witness to the faith. So we look forward to hearing from you in the future and what you're up to. So
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.